And now the latest across the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for October the 13th. Well, as we get towards the middle of the month, we have 3 active tropical cyclones tonight. Tropical Storm Pamela nearing landfall in Mexico, Kompasu also nearing landfall in either China or Hainan, and Namtheun now a tropical depression in the open western Pacific. It's day 286 of the year, and so far we've had 81 storms form in 2021. Could that rise over the next few days? It is possible, as we have a few areas of interest to watch. In the Atlantic Basin on day 135 of hurricane season, you'll find one of those areas of interest here. A tropical wave that's moved through Hispaniola today has a very low chance of forming, as it generally tracks northwards. If this were to form, it would likely be a short-lived system, not really too strong at all. In the Eastern Pacific on day 151 of hurricane season, Pamela again is nearing landfall in Mexico, expected to reach hurricane status once again. It lost it earlier today as the convection really just ran away from the center a bit due to some wind shear. But again, significant impacts are likely to take place nonetheless in Mexico. In the Western Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Kompasu in the South China Sea. You can see south of Hong Kong there. 96W is northwest of Guam. 10% as that one heads generally northwards. I don't expect that one to form. And Namtheun again is a tropical depression now in the open western Pacific. Not really going to be bringing too many impacts to really any land areas. In the northern Indian Ocean, we do have a new invest here tonight. Invest 99A has been designated. A very low chance on this one as it heads generally eastwards towards India. And if we look towards the southern hemisphere, it's all quiet here. And stay tuned on our main channel as we have the Australian region animation for 2020 and 21 premiering tonight on our Force 13 main channel. So be sure to be there for that premiere. Looking at the forecast for Tropical Storm Pamela, you can see their hurricane warnings are in place for Mexico, as it is expected to again reach hurricane status, but quickly racing off, and we could be seeing some significant flooding in Mexico and Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas. So this just really shows the impacts are not going to be limited just to the coastline with Pamela. Getting to Kompasu, we can see the forecast here is for it to come into Hainan as a tropical storm, around 55 knots there, weakening as it heads into Vietnam and then ultimately dissipating over land after landfall. Getting to the satellite imagery, here's the North Atlantic. You can see not much of what would signify an area of interest, but it is there north of Hispaniola. It's got some increased thunderstorm activity, especially from where it was just about a day or two ago, but nonetheless, a low chance again on that on forming, as it is dealing with some wind shear. You can also see in the Eastern Pacific there, Pamela, which as the sun sets here in the Eastern Pacific, you can see the thunderstorm activity may be trying to get over the center. The lower level center was actually exposed a bit earlier today, which caused us to downgrade it to a tropical storm, along with recon data, of course. But again, significant impact still likely with that. We'll see if it can reach hurricane intensity again. In the Western Pacific, we can see Tropical Storm Kompasu, a large influence with that one, as it generally tracks westwards. We can see some thunderstorm activity associated with 96W there near the Mariana Islands, again not too likely to form. And you can see just a little bit of thunderstorm activity with Namtheun, not really too impressive right now, which it's not surprising to me that it's been downgraded to a tropical depression. In the northern Indian Ocean, we can see the thunderstorm activity there in the Arabian Sea associated with 99A. Again, very low chance of that one forming, but it is certainly possible, and nonetheless could bring some heavy rainfall to portions of India. And in the South Indian Ocean, we can see not much going on here after our invest that was there last week. We don't really see much tropical cyclone activity going on here. We don't expect it in October. The season starts at the end of this month as we get into November. To the sea surface temperatures, we can see where Pamela is, it's actually very warm. The main issue that Pamela's been facing is some wind shear out of the westerly direction. So that's really kept it at bay, which I'm certain that a lot of us are happy about as compared to what it could have been. In the North Atlantic, it's piping hot, ready for activity if it were to fire up again, so just a reminder, we are still well within hurricane season here. In the Indian Ocean for 99A, it's looking piping hot, ready to go if it is able to form with the environmental conditions. And in the Western Pacific, we're generally above average here, very warm, 30 to 31 degrees Celsius in some areas. Generally, though, around the whole Western Pacific, 29 to 30 degrees Celsius. And we can see in the southern hemispheres, we're getting closer again to those seasons. They're warming up quite nicely, ready for the tropical cyclone seasons. The sea surface temperature anomalies, we can see the La Nina effect really taking shape in the equatorial regions, sort of a wave pattern there across the equators, which is something I find pretty neat to look at. We can see where Pamela is, it's quite a bit above average there, and where our Westpac systems are generally above average as well. Moving to the On This Day section, we have a pretty significant storm for our On This Day. We're looking back to 1998. Super Typhoon Zeb was nearing landfall in Luzon, would peak on this day with winds of 180 miles per hour and a pressure of 900 millibars. An incredible super typhoon, not one that you see too often close to land, would make landfall in Luzon on the 14th. I'm not sure of the intensity that it made landfall. I believe it might have been a Category 5 as well, so a significant system. And in the Eastern Pacific, we had 13E, which would eventually become Hurricane K in the Eastern Pacific, and followed by another hurricane, I believe the name was Madeline, off the coast of Mexico. Again, these are provided every day by our Cyclone History page on Twitter. I recommend that you follow them on Twitter, as this is very interesting stuff to learn about. Moving to the naming list, we have yet to see Wanda in the Atlantic, but I fear that we are going to see it at some point before the season ends, and I think we are going to get to the auxiliary list. The next two names there are Wanda and Adria, of course. In the Eastern Pacific with Pamela, the next two names now are Rick and Sandra. In the Central Pacific, unfortunately, we're still waiting on Hone. Maybe we can get there next year. I don't think we're going to be seeing it this year, just with the way things have gone. In the Western Pacific, after our two systems, Kompasu and Namtheun, our next two names are Malu and Nayata. And in the North Indian Ocean, 99A has a chance to grab Jawad, and the next name after that is Asani. In the Southern Hemisphere, again, we're getting close to these seasons. At the end of the month, we start them up. In the Australian region, the next two names are Patty and Ruby. The Southwest Indian Ocean names are Anna, followed by Batsarai. And in the South Pacific, we're looking out for Cody, followed by Dovi. Thank you so much for watching this Tropical Weather Bulletin, and we'll have another one tomorrow night.